Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio with you for the next hour over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's Sirius XM, Channel 80, and of course nationwide in 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your local listings near you to find me. It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard. The number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN, reminding you that in approximately 13 minutes or so, we'll be talking to Mel Kiper Jr., our resident college football analyst extraordinaire. He's going to give us some insight into this NFL draft. Saquon Barkley out of Penn State. He ended up going with Rock Nation. Some are speculating where he'll go. And I'm interested in knowing where y'all think he should go because guess what? He's a running back. Should the Jets grab him? Should the Giants grab him? I think Tampa Bay should grab him or Indianapolis. That's just me. When you talk about a quarterback, hell, the Browns need a quarterback. The Jets need a quarterback. The Giants need a quarterback. Jameis Winston keep looking the way he's been looking. The Tampa Bay might need a quarterback. We don't know. But I do know this. There does not seem to be one definitive individual that everyone looks at and says it's a lock. He's the next Andrew Luck. He's the next Peyton Manning. He's the next John Elway. There doesn't seem to be that guy. It just doesn't. And because it doesn't seem to be that guy, it's got me wondering, why the hell do we keep talking about Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen? Why aren't we talking about Baker Mayfield? Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen didn't play in the National College Football Playoff semifinals. That was Baker Mayfield. Neither of them won the Heisman. That was Baker Mayfield. Both of them were struggling to complete 63% of their passes. Baker Mayfield has completed 70% of his passes each of the last 2 years. The interceptions that they've thrown in one season, this dude has thrown in 2. And by the way, for the 14 interceptions that Baker Mayfield has thrown in the last 2 seasons, he's thrown 83 touchdowns. 83. And last time we saw him, even though we heard Mr. Bellamy for Georgia screaming at him, be humble, be humble, be humble after the game, I'm still trying to figure out how could you as a defensive player scream at a quarterback to be humble after he just dropped 48 points on you. I'm still trying to figure that out, Cat. I'm still trying to figure that out, Nuno. Can somebody help me out with that? Because that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand for the life of me. I can't get for the life of me how in God's name you as a defensive player can scream at Baker Mayfield to be humble just because you won the game after he just dropped 48 on you. I don't get it. I look at Josh Rosen. Everybody talks about how this dude can really fling that football. His spirals look beautiful. Well, hell, so do I when I shadow box. How would I look once I got hit? I'm just wondering. Josh Rosen has virtually accomplished nothing at UCLA, in my estimation. I'm sorry. I'm not saying he's a scrub by any stretch of the imagination. Please don't get me wrong. I know he can play. And I watched him. I watched them lose to Memphis. I think it was Memphis. They were on the road. And they gave up 40 plus. But I guess what I'm saying is when I look at Josh Rosen, you know what I keep thinking about? Who the hell are you to tell a team you don't want to get drafted? It's the National Football League. Now, some people sit there and say, oh, Stephen A., you ain't say that about Eli Manning. Well, Josh Rosen is not a Manning. Manning's the first family of the NFL. You had Archie Manning. And then after that, you had Peyton Manning. And they were there long before Eli Manning ever arrived. Where's Josh Rosen's relatives? paving a way for him for a smooth transition to the NFL from college football. Where's that person? I don't know him. Rose is 20 years old. 20 years old talking smack. Look like he don't weigh more than me. Talk about he don't want to be drafted by a team. You got some nerves, man. And the UCLA Bruins were 4-8 this year. Got your coach fired. Chip Kelly's going to be there. And oh, by the way, if you're so confident in yourself, all right, why don't you stay and play for Chip Kelly, Mr. Offensive Guru himself? Just wondering. You Sam Darnold, last time we had seen him, last year anyway, as a starter, fourth game of 2016, he lost that game, but then led the Trojans to 9 straight wins. Finished this year, first year, throwing for 453 yards and 5 touchdowns in a 52-49 Rose Bowl comeback victory over Penn State. This year, he's underachieved. Probably because he was overhyped. Are these guys really better than Baker Mayfield? I'm just wondering. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, you see people still wanting to talk to me about Marvin Lewis. Be very, very clear. I haven't changed my opinion about Marvin Lewis. He should have been fired years ago, months ago, days ago, hours ago. It does not matter. He should have been fired. Marvin Lewis. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. I'd take the money too if I were him and keep the job if I were him. But the Cincinnati Bengals as an organization, Mike Brown in particular, the owner, the president, the talk about telling your fan base to go kick rocks. We don't give a damn. 15 years. This man can't win a playoff game. 15 years. And you still have him gainfully employed as your head coach. You don't care about winning. I don't care what Mike Brown says. I don't care what he says to the city of Cincinnati. They do not care about winning. They do not care about winning. That's what's going on here. Jai in Baltimore, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, I'm good, Mr. Smith. It's an honor and a pleasure to talk to you. I'm a young high schooler, and you've been my inspiration to become a sports talk show host. And I just want to just tell you that I appreciate your work, and congratulations on going terrestrial nationwide.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
And I agree with you that Marvin Lewis deserves to be fired, and how me as a Bengals fan, am sick and tired of the ineptitude in January. I got a question for you: is that if he would have been fired, if he wasn't there, if he didn't get his contract, who do you think should have replaced him? Because I'm looking and I don't really see anybody that could have replaced him.
Wrong question. My question to you is, who can't replace a man that can't win a playoff game in 15 years?
Well,
I ask you a simple question. Who cannot replace a man that can't win a playoff game in 15 years? Who can't do that?
I don't know.
There we go. That answers your question. Appreciate the call and the continued support. Feel free to call back anytime. That's the answer. You don't know. So it don't matter. Because anybody can replace somebody that can't win a playoff game in 15 years. Hell, I can coach the Bengals right now. I'm serious. It ain't that complicated. Not when you got that kind of record in the postseason. All time, 0-7. Nobody's worse. Luke in New York City, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A., how you doing?
I'm all right, man.
I got 2 things I want to say. I want to talk about the Isaiah Thomas getting the max in Cleveland, and I want to talk about the Giants taking Barkley.
All right.
First of all, I think the Giants should absolutely take Barkley. I don't think it should even be a question. I think he's an all-world talent. I think he's the best player coming out of the draft. I don't buy into these quarterbacks. Just wanted to hear what you say about that. And then for Isaiah Thomas, I don't think he should get the max at all. I mean, I think he's a liability on defense. I think Danny Ainge is the best GM in the NBA, hands down. I think he knows what he's doing. There's a reason why he got rid of him. There's a reason why he went after Kyrie. because Kyrie is a max player and Isaiah Thomas is not. I just want to hear what you have to say on those 2 points.
Well, listen, Kyrie may not be, you know what, Isaiah Thomas may not be the max player that Kyrie Irving is, and that's fair. But Kyrie Irving is a scoring machine. Anybody that could average nearly 29 points a game for you, you got to find a way to pay them. It's just that simple. The other side to this that I would say to you is that he may not be a max player per se, but in today's NBA economy, Isaiah Thomas is worth more than $150 million. It's just a fact. In today's NBA economy, he is worth more than $150 million. Now, I don't blame Danny Ainge for moving him because he had a chance to get Kyrie. But we also need to recognize that if Danny Ainge couldn't get Kyrie Irving, then you know what? He probably wouldn't have traded Isaiah Thomas. So we need to pay attention to that and consider that for what it is, too. I appreciate the call. Thank you. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. Mel Kiper Jr., resident college football guru. He's up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
18 minutes. Past hour number 2 back here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio. My honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line. He's got his own show on the weekends, nationally syndicated. Obviously, I am as well now on ESPN affiliates in 250 markets across the United States of America. And it is my honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line, our college football guru himself, the one and only Mel Kiper Jr. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Happy New Year, Stephen A. Great to be with you, pal.
Happy New Year, buddy. Thank you so much. Talk to me about this because I'm reading the New York newspapers, okay? And I'm seeing that they've got the New York Giants are going to have the number 2 overall pick. And it's going to really be a tough position, Mel, for them to be in because, my goodness, they've got to make a choice between Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold. Could you answer this question for me? Why in God's name does that have to be the choice when a guy like Baker Mayfield is available?
Well, the Saquon Barkley, who heck of a running back at Penn State, is going to go somewhere.
I was just thinking quarterbacks.
Exactly, right. But I think with Baker, it's the issue's the height. And they say, well, Russell Wilson's 5'10" and 3/4, but Russell Wilson's one of many who didn't make. He made it, but a lot of them, his height did not make it. Was he going to be the next Seneca Wallace? He became Russell Wilson, a future Hall of Famer. So, how many more will be under 6 feet or right around 6 feet? Drew Brees, Michael Vick, those are the guys you would say are in line there. But I think for Baker, it's also the off-the-field concerns in terms of he had the one issue and the antics, I would say, away from just football or something he needs to mature a little bit with that, be the CEO of your football team and your organization. And if he does that, fine. But I think in terms of Rosen and Darnold and Josh Allen, don't forget him, Stephen A. from Wyoming. Josh Allen finished strong. Sam Darnold didn't. Josh Rosen didn't because he was still hurt, still in concussion protocol for 32 days since he was injured and not available for their bowl game. So I think there's concerns with every quarterback, Stephen A. When you think about Josh Allen, we love the talent, but he only completed 56% of his passes against very suspect defenses. So there's issues with all of them. I've been saying for a couple weeks now the happiest guy in the NFL is John Lynch because he made the move to get Garoppolo, and Garoppolo's better than any of these guys.
Well, let me ask you this question. Because when we look at it from your perspective, I totally get where you're coming from and what have you. Aren't we really saying that folks are afraid that Baker Mayfield is going to be the second coming of Johnny Manziel?
Well, they say they're not. When you bring up Johnny Manziel, the supporters of Brian, I try to stay neutral in this, Stephen A., and just let it play out. It's too early to lock in and say, I'm going to put this guy here, this guy there. We don't even know the accurate measurables on any of these underclassmen yet. But I think for Mayfield, you bring up the Manziel thing because, let's face it, everybody wants to do revisionist history on these quarterbacks. Like, everybody knew all about Manziel before the draft. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They weren't talking about that. So he still went in the first round, and everybody thought this team should have taken him, that team should have taken him. And after he's a bust, everybody, you should have known all that. We knew all that. No, you didn't. So in terms of this comparison, I think it's real because of maturity. Maturity was lacking with Manziel. Maturity seems to be lacking with Baker Mayfield. That's all you're saying. I'm saying that he's going to be a bust or he's going to be like Manziel and it's going to play out like Manziel did once he was in the NFL. We don't know that, but he's got to mature. He's got to stay away from what he's done and the antics, I would call that. That's got to end. And if it doesn't, then he could go the way of Manziel. So, but the supporters say, don't even bring it. That's ridiculous. I don't know how you shouldn't be doing that. Baloney. There's a reason. It's not just out of the air. You just pull out the Manziel is the maturity issue, and that's why we have the concern with Baker Mayfield. You don't see anybody questioning Sam Darnold's maturity. Now, Rosen,
that's where I was going with Rosen, right. Mel Kiper. That's where I was going. When you mentioned maturity, I was going to bring up Josh Rosen at UCLA.
Well, I think the interview process for Josh Rosen is going to be huge because there are concerns about rubbing some people the wrong way. Jed Fisher says he's the smartest quarterback he's ever been around. You got to like that. You got to like the way he spins it, even though he doesn't have a howitzer for an arm. It's certainly more than good enough. You got to like the way he's performed when he's on. He's as good as it gets. But he has had injury issues, Stephen A. Last year with the shoulder, missed 6-game shoulder surgery. This year, 2 concussions, 32 days in concussion protocol. Says he wants to play in a bowl game, but he's not let out by the doctors and cleared for out of concussion protocol. That's an issue. Durability is a problem the last 2 years with Josh Rosen. So you got Darnold, who was a turnover nightmare most of the year and finished up with a thud, a bad game against Ohio State. And like you say, Mayfield, the issue is going to be height, and Allen's going to be the 56% completion percentage because nobody in the NFL, no starting quarterback in the NFL left college with a completion percentage that was 56%. No, if you want to say Josh McCown was the only one, he didn't end as a starting quarterback, but he would have been the only one that was below that. He was at 54.8 coming out of college. Josh Allen's at 56.2 against weaker competition in the Mountain West. So there's issues, Stephen A., with every one of these quarterbacks.
Mel Kiper Jr. right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. So if you had to take Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, presumably they're the 2 best quarterbacks in this particular draft, you're going with Rosen. We all should go with Rosen. Why?
Well, I haven't made that call yet. Okay. I was Darnold early in the year, Rosen, Josh Allen's in that mix, Baker Mayfield, Mason Rudolph. Got a lot of quarterbacks to evaluate. There's others out there as well that may be pretty good. Mike White at Western Kentucky is going to have to be evaluated as well as a second-round pick probably. So there's not these other guys that just can't play. Some of these guys White's got a big-time NFL arm, but to say who's going to be the first quarterback off the board or who I'm going to rate number 1, haven't made that call yet. We got till late April. We still don't have measurables on the underclassmen, and those quarterbacks are underclassmen, a lot of those guys that we just talked about, 3 of them. So to me, Stephen A., don't lock in so early where once I told you who the top quarterback is, in my opinion, I can't get off of that. So, and these guys, not like they're going to be doing a lot between now and then. Some are going to go to the Senior Bowl. Mayfield hopefully will continue on and go down to Mobile and play, and we'll see what happens. Some won't. The pro days, who hasn't had the only pro day I remember that wasn't that successful was Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer. He didn't have a great pro day, so how much does pro days really mean thrown against air? So at the end of the day, Stephen A., I'm not going to lock in until I get all the measurables, everything you need, see how the interviews went with Rosen, and then make a decision in early April, and by then we'll know who we think is the best quarterback in this draft.
Well, fair enough about not locking in, but one of the people that haven't been even mentioned that much is last year's Heisman Trophy winner, Lamar Jackson out of Louisville. Why is that?
Because we don't know if he's a quarterback or a wide receiver. And you say, okay, remember Matt Jones came out of Arkansas and ended up being a wide receiver at the Senior Bowl, went in the first round to the Jacksonville Jaguars and was a bust. Okay, Antoine Randall went down to Senior Bowl, looked pretty good playing wide receiver, and in the return game, ended up in the second round, became a really good player in the NFL. We saw what happened with Terrell Pryor. He was a quarterback early, didn't make it a quarterback, then became a receiver, okay? Tim Tebow didn't want to be anything but a quarterback. I thought he should have been an H-back. Didn't want to do it. We'll see what happened. So if Lamar Jackson is interested in being a wide receiver, there's evidence to suggest that he could maybe be a good one. But if he doesn't want to be a receiver and he wants to be a quarterback, you have to put that into your evaluation and say he's not agreeable to that. He's not open to that. So I think that's going to be interesting in the interviews, and when everybody tries to figure out Lamar Jackson is, are we working him out as a receiver, quarterback, or both? And then how do you view him once he's in the NFL? So I think Lamar Jackson is going to be one of those wild cards. It's going to be very difficult to project. If you had to say to me, where would he go right now, I'd probably say second round.
Let me ask you to put on your NFL cap because you don't just know college football, you know football, period, okay? So if you're the New York Giants, what do you think their biggest need is?
Well, I think you look at the quarterback position with Eli. I think Eli would be a great quarterback to have there. If they want to move him, obviously there's be teams interested. You could do that, but I think you start with a young quarterback. I know every quarterback, Stephen A., doesn't appear to be ready. They're not ready. They're ready at different time periods, okay? They're not all ready in the first year or ready in the second year. Some may be ready in the third year, fourth year. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers was 4 years. So this whole when they're ready, they got to be ready. Well, everybody's ready at different points in time. So if you're going to say, we got to have a guy ready, well, if you have Eli, then you can wait a little bit, okay? And I think that's what the Giants will probably do, and we'll see. If Eli's not there, the quarterback better be ready a lot earlier. If Eli's there, then he's got a little bit of time on his hands. So it'll be interesting to see. And who do they like? Maybe they don't like any of these quarterbacks at number 2. Maybe they don't. You don't have to love every quarter. Just because there's a couple quarterbacks up doesn't mean you have to love them. Okay, you may not like either one of them.
What about the Jets?
Now, they're at 6. They got to look. You think about it, 5 of the 6 picks, 5 of the first 6 picks. Cleveland having 2 of those picks at 1 and 4.
Right. And by the way, Mel, they're a franchise that had damn well better take a quarterback. The quarterback they've missed out on, Watson and Wentz, even McCarron for crying out loud, Mahomes, they've missed out on everybody.
How about Derek Carr? They took Manziel instead of Derek Carr.
That's
right.
So,
I mean, they haven't made a move right in terms of the quarterback. Now, John Dorsey's running the show. John's a friend of mine. I've known John for a long time. He was on the back of my book back in the early 80s when he came out of Connecticut as a linebacker. He's a great football guy. He's a great evaluator, and he'll figure it out. They got 10 picks in the first 5 rounds. They got a good young defense. Myles Garrett looked spectacular once he got back from the injury, and they got a lot of good young defensive players and some weapons around the quarterback they need to develop. They know that. And Njoku had his hits and his misses. He dropped some. He caught some. Okay, Corey Coleman's still plagued by some drops. Some of these guys, these weapons have to develop. They need a running back at some point, obviously. But I think the offense will be dictated by the Cleveland Browns early on, and quarterback's going to be taken. So 5 of the first 6 picks, you could say, are teams looking at quarterback, with Cleveland having 2 of those picks. And the only team that will take a quarterback in the top 6 is the Indianapolis Colts, probably.
Talking to Mel Kiper Jr. right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Before I let you get on out of here, just a couple of more questions, because I went back to the Jets. Do you think their biggest need is quarterback, running back, or whomever? Because I'm thinking Saquon Barkley for them as well.
Well, I don't think he'll be there. I'd be a little surprised if he was there. I think at that point, if you're Cleveland, if you could come away with the quarterback of your whoever you prefer, and you're the Cleveland Browns, whichever one you deem a top 5 guy, and you take that quarterback at 1 or 4, one of those other picks I think could be Saquon Barkley. So I think if you're Cleveland, you get the quarterback and the running back, and you bring them both in at the same time and let them develop together. So Cleveland could go that route, obviously, with the running back quarterback, knowing Crowell's a free agent.
Before I let you get on out of here, Mel Kiper Jr., I watched Sony Michel in this national semifinal against Oklahoma. And obviously him and Nick Chubb just ran roughshod, 326 yards they ran on the ground against Oklahoma. Where their run defense was, I have no idea. But you have some people looking at Sony Michel. They think he has the potential to be better than Todd Gurley. What are your thoughts about him based off of what you've seen?
Well, that's a heck of a statement to say he's going to be better than Gurley. He won't be rated as highly as Gurley was, I can tell you that, Stephen A. So you want to project him and say he's going to be close. If he's just close to as good as Gurley, you're really happy with that pick. So Sony Michel really helped himself. He had the fumble, but he still played played well all year. But certainly he's probably a guy that's going to be, depending upon how he tests, will be in that first round discussion, at worst the second round. But there's a lot of other backs, and these backs all get pushed down a little bit further than they should, because most teams have a decent back already in place. So it'll be interesting with Sony Michel, but his star is on the rise. There's no question. As the arrow's pointing up in terms of his grade, and you're right, he benefited. The last time we saw him in that game, and we'll see him again against Alabama, he has another good game there. Like I say, he's not going to be the first running back taken, because that's going to be Saquon Barkley, but you have Bryce Love from Stanford, you got Darius Geis, LSU, and you got Damian Harris, Alabama's a really good player, but he could ascend up there to the 2nd or 3rd spot on the running back board.
Very last question to you, Mel Kiper Jr. You usually say you can always find somebody to run the football. You don't have to take a running back in the first round, but we see the impact Ezekiel Elliott's presence has had on the Dallas Cowboys when he's eligible to play, by the way. And now you got Barkley, who's going to be available in this draft. Is Barkley the next Ezekiel Elliott potentially?
He could be. He could be Gurley and Elliott, and look at Fournette. When you have those kinds of backs that you feel like the grade's in place with what the need is, then you take them. If you want to take them, and I always say the head coach and the coordinator wants them, you take them. But I wouldn't. I'd always take. I'd say, well, look at Elliott. Well, Elliott's one running back. Look at all the ones that look at all the playoff teams last year. That had running backs that didn't go in the first round. It's been everybody except Elliott. So, and look at the teams that won the Super Bowl, that are in the Super Bowl mix. They don't have to have that running back in the first round. But is Barkley worthy of being the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th pick in the draft, as Elliott was, as Fournette? You go back to even Trent Richardson. He was a bust, but Trent Richardson was worthy of being there. Based on everything we knew, Trent Richardson should have gone there. He did. He was a bust. Since Richardson, you had those backs that have gone high really hit, and hopefully Barkley will continue that positive commentary about the running backs that go in the top group.
Appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much. All the best to you. Happy New Year. We'll talk soon.
You are the best, Stephen A. You take care. Happy New Year, pal.
All right, buddy. The one and only Mel Kiper Jr. right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. 888-729-3776 is always the number to call up. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Back to your calls and more, plus some news coming out of the NFL. You won't want to miss this. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Off the year with a little romance is easy at 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. So to order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. 39 minutes past hour number 2. Thanks again to the great Mel Kiper Jr. for coming on the show and talking with us. Before I go to the phones, I had something that I wanted to read to y'all in regards to NFL ratings. NFL television ratings fell 9.7% in 2017 during the regular season, according to the numbers registered by Nielsen. A typical game was watched by 1.6 million fewer people this season as compared to last season. It went down to 14.9 million versus 16.5 million the year before. The drop comes after the NFL had hoped to stem an 8% rating slide from 2015 to 2016 by experimenting with television commercials and trying to speed up the game. Last year's drop was partially attributed to a lost audience due to the presidential election. This year, the league was challenged with fans upset at players protesting during the national anthem, an action that led to a league face-off with President Donald Trump. Another factor cited was the dilution of the product through Thursday Night Football, which was broadcast on the NFL Network, CBS, NBC, and Amazon Prime this season. Both Fox CEO James Murdoch and CBS Sports Chairman Sean McManus blamed the rating slide on the proliferation of games. NFL Red Zone also might be a factor in taking fans away from watching the daytime games on CBS and Fox. The NFL Network and DirecTV, which air separate versions of the show that broadcast live look-ins, have never shared viewership numbers. The NFL isn't in a vacuum, as the viewership drop is indicative of the general environment as less television is being watched and cable subscriptions have declined. Despite the drop, Nielsen data shows that 20 of the top 30 highest rated shows on television in 2017 were football games. Both NBC and ESPN had the most watched shows in every single week in terms of audience and all key male demographics for every Sunday night and Monday night football game this season. NBC's Sunday Night Football finished number 1 in primetime this fall for the 7th consecutive year, besting American Idol 2005 to 2006 through 2010, 2011 for the longest stretch of the top primetime spot since 1950. Its 18.2 million viewers bested the second best primetime show. Thursday Night Football on CBS by 29%, its largest margin ever. ESPN officials reported earlier in the week that the network grew its total day viewership in 2017 by 1%, while primetime was up by 7%. Ladies and gentlemen, I've never been a proponent of Thursday Night Football. I despise it. I think Friday night should be for prep football, Saturday nights should be for college football, and Sundays and Monday Night Football should be for the NFL. I think football Tuesday through Thursday should be non-existent. I've always been I can't stand Thursday Night Football. It's a diluted product that robs us of our money. Period. The other thing I wanted to point to, you see why we can't get too emotional about Colin Kaepernick? Because some of the viewership drop has been attributed to him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am a black man who understands the issues to some degree of racial oppression, inequality, and police brutality. I do not believe that all police officers are brutal. I believe that rogue police officers exist just like rogue everything exists. But everybody shouldn't be castigated and excoriated. I also believe that while there is racial oppression and inequality, this country has advanced by leaps and bounds. Having said all of that, we need to understand something. Colin Kaepernick wasn't protesting against NFL owners. He was protesting against society. And an NFL owner, although we would like them to be sensitive to the plight of disenfranchised communities throughout this nation and those who are impoverished and desolate, are under no obligation to do so, particularly at the expense of their bottom line. And if Colin Kaepernick is costing them money, they have a right to say, damn that. We're going to address our bottom line first. We're in the business to make money. off of football. Let's keep our eyes on the prize. They do have a right to do that, no matter how unpopular it may be. If it's popular enough not to affect the bottom line, then evidently it ain't that unpopular. Your calls to close out the show in a minute with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Protecting your small business is a big deal. Cover what you've worked so hard for. Visit ProgressiveCommercial.com. To the phones we go to close out the show right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go to Rodney in Queens. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. Congrats on the show.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the kid Allen, the QB out of Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think his stock is getting, I wouldn't say like lowered because he played in the Mountain West? Because I feel like he played in a cold weather climate, and I think he would be good for the pick at number 2 because the other two played in the Pac-12 and they played in the hot climate. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, playing under cold weather conditions and excelling under those circumstances, I think is incredibly beneficial because, NFL scouts are definitely going to pay attention to that. There's no doubt about it. It also helps that he's 6'5" and over 230. That helps as well. But when you look at him completing just 56% of his passes, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, it doesn't really stand out, okay? What I would say what helps him are the question marks about Donald and Rosen. But I still think because they come from bigger programs and because they've looked the way that they've looked in comparison to him, I still think that they have an edge over him. But we'll see. He might go second or third round, but we'll see. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate the call. D'Angelo in Virginia, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A? Just two things real quick. How much do you trust Alex Smith not to throw a pick and cost Kansas City the game?
I trust him not to throw an interception, but I don't trust him to win the game.
Not to win the game? Because you do realize.
No. I think Kansas City will beat Tennessee, but it ain't going to be because of Alex Smith is what I'm saying.
Okay. Second point, can you give me your final scores for Wild Card Weekend then?
I say Kansas City would probably win 27-20 over Tennessee. I think that Buffalo's playing with house money, but the game's in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense is real. I think that Jacksonville squeezes out a nail biter. They win 20-18. I think about Atlanta and Los Angeles. I don't trust Atlanta anymore. Steve Sarkisian, first-year offensive coordinator, real question marks about what Atlanta can do offensively. They can explode and run the table, but I just don't think this is their year. I think if the Rams are going to lose, it's going to be on the road. It's not going to be at home, and it's not going to be a team as roller coaster as Atlanta. I think the Rams win this game 35-24. And I think that when it comes to New Orleans and Carolina, I think Carolina loses. Cam Newton and Carolina loses because their offense just ain't good enough. I think New Orleans beats them like 27-17. Appreciate the call. Stu in Inglewood, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick. Go.
Hey, Stephen A., how you doing, man? I had a question for you. NFL Hall of Fame finalist was announced, and we know we got a few questionable characters on there, but my question to you was, we got Terrell Owens and we got Randy Moss. Both of them had the same kind of numbers. They mirrored each other with the antics they did in the media.
Don't educate me, bro. I know both numbers. Go ahead. What's your question?
So I want to know which one gets in because, T.O. never had any off-the-field issues.
Neither should unless both of them should. T.O. should not be. He's been eligible for this is his third year. T.O. should have been in. And if T.O. is going to be held out for questionable behavior, so should Randy Moss, even though in my eyes, both should be first ballot Hall of Famers. Appreciate it. Jason and Cali, you real quick. You're live with Stephen A. You got 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think you got sold a little bit of snake oil on the Nielsen ratings on the football because I actually heard this discussed on another show recently.
I just read the article.
They were saying, they were saying that the Nielsen ratings were down, but the streaming subscriptions are actually up 400% this year.
Okay.
And services like Sling are up as well. And there's escalators in the TV contract to where if they get cable subscriptions, there's escalators for the NFL. So I think they're trying to spin it.
I got to go. I appreciate the call. But by the way, Nielsen ratings are about the television. It ain't about streaming. So I ain't get a hill wink. But we could discuss that more tomorrow. Until then, this is Stephen A. signing off. Peace and love, everybody.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.